Hello and welcome to the Victorious Living Solutions podcast. I'm Dr. Nikeya Young. I'm so excited about today's episode. You guys, okay, so our theme for this season, if you're new here, is Women in Command. Women in Command. And today's episode, men and women can relate to this one. Go where you're celebrated. That's right. Today's topic is go where you're celebrated. So let's get into it. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And this topic that we're talking about today, you guys, going where you're celebrated is one of the best things that you can do for your mental health. And I'll talk about why a little later on. But yeah. That's it. So first, let's talk about what does it look like to be celebrated? And it's not just the obvious things where you're receiving literal awards and praise and recognition. That's one way, and it does feel good to be appreciated in that way. But that's not the type of celebrated that I'm talking about here today. So what I'm talking about is it looks like when you're celebrated, it looks like other people are genuinely interested in you. Your voice, your persona, your perspectives, just everything that makes you who you are is appreciated as is, right? That's one thing that looks like to be celebrated. Another thing being celebrated looks like is good old-fashioned RESPECT, okay? Being liked is good and cute or whatever, but I don't really care if you like me, but you will respect me. I do not like disrespect. When you're respected, it feels like being celebrated or valued because you're being listened to. Your opinions are valued. Your contributions are valued. You're treated with kindness and dignity. You're considered. People have empathy towards you. They don't treat you like you don't have feelings, right? Those are some simple things about respect. And that, who doesn't want to go where that is? That's an amazing feeling. But we talked about, some things that it looks like to be celebrated, but we can't talk about that without talking about the rest of that quote. So the quote usually goes, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And so we talked about being celebrated, but what does it feel like to be tolerated? Well, here's some things that are pretty common ways to tell when you're just being tolerated. Tolerated is just what it sounds like. They're settling for you. You're not the person that they prefer to be around or to hang around, but since you're here, okay, we'll put up with you. When you're tolerated, a lot of the reasons that people will keep you around is usually because they're using you for something. Like your gifts, your talents, whatever benefit of you doing work that they don't want to do, or even some kind of narcissistic supply that they get from having you around, even though they don't like you. There are some people that literally get some kind of psychotic thrill out of mistreating people. They want you to come around, but then when you come around, they don't treat you with respect, or you get that feeling that you're not wanted because you're not. Or another thing that is going on that you're being tolerated is you're basically your overall feeling of you being treated like you're defective. No matter what you do, it's not good enough. They will find some kind of reason to complain about it. And this is done to kind of keep you always on your toes, trying to readjust yourself for their approval. Now, they know it's a losing game because no matter what you do, they're not going to approve of it, but they so enjoy watching you squirm. And that, when you're in environments like that, that is toxic. That is not where you want to go. And staying in those environments, you're not going to take command that way. And we're talking about being women in command. The longer you put up with disrespect, the less and less people respect you. That's just how that works. Because why? Because no self-respecting person would put up with being mistreated. And so you putting up with people playing in your face and mistreating you is reinforcing their belief that you're worthless, that you're not someone who is to be respected, that you're not someone who is worthy of anything good or anything, any blessings or anything of that nature. And that's not you, right? What better way to show that that is not who I am than refusing to put up with people's crap? Okay? It's a very different vibe when you go to a place where you're celebrated. It's like you can see the clear line. Over here, I feel like I can relax. I can let my hair down. I can be myself. I'm saying contributions and people are like, "Oh yeah, that's great." You know, they're liking what I'm saying. They are adding theirs on to it. I never feel like, "Oh my God, I'm too much. I'm too much." Or, "Oh my God, I'm not good enough." I don't feel like I'm auditioning for anyone's approval. Those are the vibes that you get when you found your tribe and you know that they're not just putting up with you. They actually want you to be there. They invite you to things and they're actually happy when you say yes, right? But when you go where you're tolerated, you always feel the shift in the energy in the room. There's snickers when you walk past, or people may be full, lively conversation. And when you come in, everything stops and it's like, "Hey," right? That kind of stuff, ain't nobody got time for that. Okay? If you are still in those kinds of environments, do yourself a favor and go. And I keep talking about this because this story of this woman, Dr. Candia Bailey, Antoinette Candia Bailey, who worked at Lincoln University, who killed herself. She unalived herself, y'all, because of horrific bullying and mistreatment by her boss. She complained about it and nothing was done. And eventually she was wrongfully fired. She was so depressed over the way she had been treated that she took her own life. And I say that to say that don't underestimate the impact of going where you're devalued, where you're tolerated, you're not respected. Don't underestimate how that affects you, because it does affect you. It may not affect you to the extent where you feel that your only hope is to end your life, but it affects you in other ways. It affects you in your self-esteem, your confidence level, your ability to speak up in meetings. You used to be so excited and share out your findings, but it wasn't valued. And so now when you get in the meeting, you're just quiet, because if I say something, it's not going to be listened to anyway, right? It affects you in so many different ways, and it can just become a part of who you are. So you're not even just acting that way when you're in the presence of the people who didn't value you. Now you are allowing their limiting beliefs of you to become your limiting beliefs of yourself. And we do not do that, okay? That is not what we're going to do. Another thing that being tolerated looks like is you're always being made the butt of the joke and you ain't laughing. Okay, so if you go places with people and they're constantly trying to make jokes at your expense, and then when you confront them about their behavior, they're like, "Girl, I was just playing. You can't take a joke." Like, no, we're not doing that. People will play in your face all day and act like they don't know, but they know. They know. They're being passive aggressive. They know that it's rude to try to put you on Front Street in front of people. They know that whatever the behavior, insert whatever disrespectful behavior here, before you even call them out on it, they already know that they did something wrong. So this is that leads me to the other sign. When you find that someone is disrespectful and then you call them out on the behavior, if you're somewhere, even in an environment where you're celebrated, and somebody that you have a good relationship with, they're not a bad person. They just did something that rubbed you the wrong way. Maybe they didn't mean to, but you bring it to their attention. They are going to be oh so apologetic about that. Wow, oh my God, I did not realize that was not my intent at all. I am so sorry. And they're going to go about showing that they understand that hurt you, and they're going to change their behavior going forward. Why? Because they value you and they value their relationship with you. And they don't want a small misunderstanding to tank years and years of friendship or whatever have you. But when you're just tolerated, meaning maybe this is somebody who celebrated you at one point, but for whatever reason, they really just are tired of you, but they still keeping you around because they're still getting some kind of benefit out of it. But the love that they had for you before, it just ain't there now. So now they're doing little things. They could hide it as long as they could, but eventually it gets to the point where they can't hide it anymore. And the mask starts to fall off, and the way that they really feel about you starts to rise to the surface. And when people show you how they really feel about you, believe them. Believe them. Okay, so that making you the butt of jokes, or when you call them out on them disrespecting you, they don't do the person that celebrates you. They're like, oh, let me do whatever I can to repair this relationship because that's my girl. I don't want it to be any ought between us. Oh, but the person who tolerates you, who does not value you, they're not going to do that. When you call them out on that problematic behavior, they will show you that they value their pride. They value themselves, whatever their ego, more than they value their connection with you. They will not take accountability for anything that they have done wrong. They will find some kind of way to gaslight you, to blame you for it. I didn't mean that. You really just too sensitive. You need to stop being so sensitive. You can't take a joke, all of that stuff. When really, you can't take accountability. They would rather go months or however long without speaking to you rather than just admit, you know what, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to hurt you, but what I did was hurtful. I acknowledge that and please forgive me, right? They would just rather, instead of doing that, that's real simple, and then changing your behavior going forward, they would rather just end the relationship or at least see the relationship not be what it once was. And that's not, we have high standards over here. You have to have the standards for the people that you allow into your life. And they have to know that that's not gonna fly. You have to set boundaries with people. You have to teach people how to treat you. They can have all the pride and ego that they want, but they need to keep it over there with them and not bring it to you. People who love you and want to be a part of your life should be scared to play in your face. They should be like, oh, she don't play that. I know her cutoff game is strong. And so let me mind my P's and Q's over here. Okay? So those are just some things about being celebrated versus being tolerated. Let's talk about what that looks like in terms of business, because we talk about personal and professional development over here at Victorious Living Solutions. And so in the workplace, because I'm seeing this a lot, you guys, LinkedIn is my jam. LinkedIn is quickly becoming my favorite social media network. And just getting on every day and looking at the articles and kind of what's being talked about, I am seeing so much where people are just really upset about the microaggressions that they're getting at work. And you know what I mean when I say microaggressions. A lot of racial tension. There's a lot of companies that really went over the top to bring all of these DEI programs after the George Floyd riots. And I knew as soon as they did that, I was like, they don't really mean this. Because honestly, DEI should never have been a program that had to be launched. Like, why weren't y'all doing this stuff anyway? You know what I mean? Like, you should always be for diversity and equity and inclusion. Like, it shouldn't have to be a whole separate program to tell you to do that. So I already knew that, okay, they're just doing this to kind of calm things down, and when the racial riots and tension and all that has settled down, they're gonna roll it back. And that's exactly what's being done now. Unfortunately, there were a lot of Black people in corporate who were promoted to, from whatever position they were in, to head of DEI, vice president of DEI or whatever have you. And when I saw it happening, I went, because I knew it was a bubble that was going to burst. And I knew that what looked like a promotion was really a Trojan horse. We have been looking for a way to get rid of you, and we haven't been able to find one because you've been doing so good at what you do. But now we have found our loophole. We are going to give you a promotion, but it's really only going to be for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden, when we're not feeling DEI anymore and we slash those programs, boom, you out of here, baby. And so we're seeing a lot of people get fired and laid off from those positions now. And people have been all over LinkedIn talking about it, crying about it. And I understand that's hurtful when your company does not value you or when you're constantly having to fight for that. This is my wish for Black people who are experiencing this. I'm just speaking as a Black woman in America, a Black person in America. Again, go where you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated. Be that in the school systems, because it happens in the school systems too. When people show you that they don't value, or they show you that they don't value your child, and your child is being treated some type of way, and his hair has to be like this, and this has to be, and he's every little thing he do, he getting rid up and written up, sent to detention, whatever, all this little microaggression stuff, because it starts young, and then as they grow older and go out into the real world, the same microaggressions happen when you get to corporate. Learn to remove yourself from situations where you are constantly having to prove why you are deserving of being there. Let this be the year that you say, we are no longer doing that. You show up to the table with all the flyness and the value that you bring, and you present it on a silver platter. And if they don't accept it, remove yourself from the table and go somewhere where you are that person's favorite dish. And you don't have to try to convince, please accept me, please. That is so disempowering. Take your power back. If you're experiencing that, I want you to just go ahead and quiet quit in your mind and start looking for you somewhere else to go that appreciates you. Okay? Now, I said quiet quit as a half joke. Don't make it obvious. Don't just all of a sudden let your job performance go way down. Do the things that you're supposed to do, but put some feelers out there and start looking, because I'm telling you, there is somebody out there that's going to find you amazing, that's going to see all of your education, your experience, your background, everything. And they're going to be like, this person is awesome. And that's where you need to be. Don't waste your time trying to dot every T and, dot every I, cross every T, be perfect in hopes that one day they're going to accept me. One day I'm going to get that big promotion. When you see the real them, the mask has fallen off. They're showing you how they feel about you. Believe them and remove yourself and go where you're celebrated. Your nervous system will thank you. Every cell in your body will thank you. Your purpose and your destiny awaits. And when you go to the place where your purpose to go, you're not going to have to convince anybody of anything. They're going to welcome you with open arms and say, we have been waiting for you. It's rare air up here and it feels wonderful in that celebrated pace. And you owe it to yourself to go there and stay there. Hope that this has encouraged you so much. Hope that you are doing some reflecting after listening to this episode and being like, I have been being tolerated in such and such space, in such and such place. I'm going to make some adjustments. And you know what else you should do? Go back and listen to season 3 of the Victorious Living Solutions podcast. We did a whole season on toxic relationships. And those episodes never get old, okay? So if you need a refresher or if you're new here, go back and listen to those episodes, and those will definitely empower you to make the adjustments that you need to make so that you can be in command. Again, I'm Dr. Nikeya Young. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep living victoriously. Bye, everybody.